Hey, gang, it is Coach G here, and it is time to talk about iron. Iron sharpens iron. That's not what we're here to talk about. Here's the thing with distance runners, it is absolutely vitally important that you have diets that are rich in iron and also that you keep track of and are aware of where your athlete is from their ability to have iron in their system and it be readily available to use. I am not a doctor. I never went to med school. So like don't kill me for those of you who are physicians. But the bottom line is if you have iron poor blood, your body does not have the ability to make as many red blood cells as it needs. Red blood cells carry oxygen. Oxygen going to your working muscles is like the entire key to distance running. Like that's the reason why we train. That's the reason you go out and run primarily is to be able to maximize the amount of fuel that you're able to give to your working body. And for whatever reason, and this is true over a long time, but I think it's even more prevalent now. I think as we have more modern diets, as we tend to eat out at restaurants more often than having kind of the old staple where mom stayed at home and cooked 3 meals a day, and you got like a meat and two vegetables and all that sort of stuff with every single meal, like breakfast, I guess. Um, Runners more and more often are discovering that they are iron deficient. And the way that iron deficiency manifests itself with your athlete is they just have trouble running up to their potential. They may complain about being tired more often. Just regular runs that used to be easy start feeling more difficult. And it's especially noticeable in workouts, particularly as the workouts are prolonged, and in races, particularly as the races are prolonged. Um, and it just feels like, gosh, I'm trying harder than I've ever tried before, but I'm not getting the results that I would expect. And it's terrible. It's like debilitating because usually the athlete, especially if they're like our athletes, they're really tough. They're going to grind anyway. They're going to try hard. They don't know any reason but to just keep grinding away at it. And by the time they discover that they've got a problem with iron, they're in a spot to where it's really going to take some pretty significant work in terms of changing diet and supplementation to be able to get them back to the place to where they just feel normal again, much less being able to run PRs and all that other kind of stuff. So here's a couple of things that I would recommend. And if I could make this mandatory policy, I would. I can't and I won't. But if it's my kid, and I had a daughter who ran and who went through all this sort of stuff with the iron, and I know a good number of the colleges where girls run require this, and it is also tested for guys. So this is not just a girl thing. It's more prevalent from girls, but it's definitely not just a girl thing. It's a guy thing too, especially for guys who are running more mileage. The more volume that you do, the better tendency there is to have issues with iron, which is why collegiate male distance runners who run usually somewhere between 70 and 110 miles a week tend to have more of the same problems that we see in high school female runners. But we do see it in high school males as well. So here's what you can do preemptively. I think your athlete, if they're going to run with this year round, if they're going to run high school track and cross country, they should have their ferritin levels. Serum ferritin, I think, is the official term, but like any doctor or lab who does blood work will know what a ferritin test is and what ferritin levels are. They should have it checked twice a year. My recommendation is that you should have it checked twice a year. You should have it once, probably like late December, early January, just as we're starting the track season, and then once in like June, just as we are starting cross country practice. And if you do that every time, we've established this sort of base level about where your athlete is, and we can see if there's big changes in their ferritin level, kind of up and down. But it also puts us in a position to where if their ferritin level is low going into the season, you can start making changes in terms of diet and supplementing that will typically in the time frame of like 4 to 6 weeks get them back into a position to where, okay, wow, now I feel more like myself. I can run and not feel miserable all the time, and enjoy the sport a little bit better. If you wait to test like middle of the season or when they start to complain about, gosh, I just don't feel quite as good, or my times are really stagnant and that kind of thing, um, then again, all of a sudden now your season's almost over and we're not able to impact this in terms of being able to make changes and that sort of thing. So how to get ferritin tests? You can go to your regular primary physician, your pediatric doctor, and you can ask for them to do the blood tests. The weird thing about blood tests with your pediatricians is they might say it's unnecessary. Your insurance company might not want to pay for it. And then when they bring you back the test, it'll have all sorts of markers for iron levels, but it won't typically include the serum ferritin unless you ask. And sometimes when you ask your doctor, they're going to say, like, well, why, you don't really need that. Like, it's not important. Or even if they get the values back, they'll give you information on what is normal for like a regular person that doesn't work for a highly competitive distance athlete. So if you've got a really good physician, if you trust them, if you've got a good working relationship, and if you want to establish this pattern and they're cool with it and they understand why it's important, and also they can do the tests when you need them done and get the results back when you need to get the results back, then for sure go that route. If not, there are these organizations around all over the place, and hopefully most of you know this now. At least the parents do. The athletes probably don't know, but you can get all kinds of medical tests done that are blood work related from these little kind of things in strip centers that you wouldn't even realize were there. You make an appointment, you show up. They have lots of appointments, so they're really flexible. So if you wanted to get a ferritin test today, you could probably call and schedule one from someplace that's not that far away from the house. I know one of the companies, um, ugh, I forgot the name of it, but I'll send it out in a tweet. Um, has a place that's right up there off exit 14, so right around where all those restaurants and big box stores are and all that other kind of stuff. And then typically they'll get you your results back really quick, like 48 hours. So it's something that you can get done. And some of the tests on those places, they're not that expensive. I think the one that I just looked up from this company that I can't remember the name of, that they advertise it as 12.95, but after they charge you like a processing fee and some other kinds of things, it probably ends up being like 20 or $25. But that 20 or $25 investment, I believe, is a really important investment in your athlete's health, especially the female runners on the team and the guys that are doing bigger mileage, or anytime your athlete starts complaining about just like, I feel tired, I'm terrible, I'm sluggish, my workouts are all stinking, all that other kind of stuff. It's a really quick solution that allows you to get the information that you need. Let's talk about how to read what ferritin tests are. Ferritin tests come on a level that I guess the lowest you could have was zero, but I think if you were zero, you might not be alive. Um, and the ranges that they will talk about being normal for like regular people are much lower than the ranges for athletes. If your athlete tests anything below about 20 or 25, they're in a situation to where they are not going to be able to perform their best as an athlete. So even if they're feeling pretty good, like if you get on this regular schedule to where you're doing it every 6 months and they come back and they say, I've got an 18, but I feel good, like everything's great, they can feel better and everything can feel like supercharged if you can get that number up, because anything below like 2025 is definitely suboptimum. And when you get things down into the low double digits, so in the low teens or into the digit numbers, like my daughter, I think was a 6. That was a really low number. Um, they're in a bad spot. I mean, it's not going to harm their physical health. Like they can live and be happy and be fine and all this other kind of stuff. But in terms of being able to perform as a distance running athlete, like they can't do it. No amount of try is going to fix that for them without making changes in your diet, how you can get iron into your body through just the things that you eat on a regular basis. And at that point, if you're down into the low teens and the single digits, you pretty much have to go into supplementation. Um, if you're not going to take a regular source of iron outside of just trying to eat like pounds of spinach or just gobbling red meat, like with every meal or whatever, it takes too long for your body to be able to absorb all of that, process it, be able to get it back into your system. And you probably can't eat enough dietary iron to be able to snap you out of that low state that you got into without doing supplementation. So that's good to know about the numbers. If you can get to where you can sustain yourself up above about 25 for a young lady and maintain that on a regular basis, then you can perform at a pretty good level. And ideally, we'd like to see it up closer to 50. Like if you can sustain it up in a level around 50, then like you are good to go. Like everything's great. You know, your diet's good. You're getting plenty of iron. You should be able to like there may be other reasons why you don't run as good as you're supposed to, but it's not because of like what's going on inside your body chemistry. And then for guys, like the 50 thing is definitely doable. You should be able to sustain 50 and above. So if you're very low as a guy, there is room to improve how you're going to be able to perform as an athlete with a diet that gets more iron in it. I could go on a really long rant about how to get dietary iron. Um, I- you won't pay attention and listen that long, but you can go on the internet. There's plenty of information about where you can get sources of iron. Lean red meat is the stuff that your body processes the most easily and turns into iron that you can use. But I know a lot of you, for lots of different reasons, choose not to eat that way, and that's cool. But you should know if you choose just a plant-based way to approach iron, it's more difficult, right? You literally have to eat like pounds of spinach to be able to get as much dietary iron that your body can convert and use as you can with other things. And pounds may be an exaggeration, so like go with me on this. But just know that it's much harder if you're trying to do a plant-based only approach. And in some of those cases, like supplementation really might be your best bet. Um, and if you're going, whether you're going to do it through diet or whether you're going to do it through supplementation, to try to get that iron to work best in your system and to bind and to do what it needs to do, vitamin C is a thing that works in conjunction with it. So as you're eating your supplement or as you're eating your iron-rich food, you need an immediate source of vitamin C that goes into your body like at the same time. So it can be as easy as eating a bunch of slices of mandarin oranges or strawberries. It could be drinking a big glass of orange juice, which maybe seems weird, like I'm going to have a steak and drink orange juice. Hey, look, I didn't make this stuff up. It's the way that it works best. So if it's gross, like don't shoot the messenger. But those things need to go together. And at the time when you're eating your iron-rich foods and or you're supplementing and adding vitamin C onto it, then you need to also at that same time, within a couple of hours pre and post, avoid things like tea and coffee, and I'm not exactly sure if it's the caffeine in it or the folic acid or whatever it is. And I'm not sure scientists are either. But those two things tend to discount they combat what you're trying to do on the iron front and the vitamin C front. And then I believe also the calcium thing. So we also talk about some people need to supplement calcium and vitamin D to build good, strong bones. And if you're in habit of taking a multivitamin, or if you're drinking big glasses of milk or eating yogurt or things that are high in calcium and enriched with vitamin C, you need to separate those two things out together. So these two really important things that you need as runners, it'd be great if you could eat them all at once and get them all in one meal or all in one pill, but they work counterproductively to one another. So you need to separate out those in terms of scheduling and time frame when you're going to be able to try to get those in your body to make you a better runner. Phew, that's a lot. But I think it's really important to talk about it because we've got some people who are going through it on the team now. We have people who are going through it on the team pretty much every year from some of the coaching clinics that I go to and coaches that I talk to all over the country. I really feel like it's almost an epidemic with female distance runners in the United States. And, this is just a rough guess, and maybe it's inaccurate, and this is just based off of personal like experience and not laboratory work or whatever. But I'd bet you probably more than 50% of female high school distance runners in America do not get enough iron in their diets. They do not have ferritin levels that are significant enough in the way that they store iron to be able to turn it into red blood cells and oxygen carrying to their muscles, and would perform better and feel better about the sport. Just not feel miserable at the end of long workouts and not feel miserable at the end of races if they approach this more systematically and made knowing and tracking where you're at with this on a regular basis, and then making real conscious decisions in your diet to make sure that you're getting enough iron in your body to be able to perform as an athlete, because this is the sport that you've chosen. And it's kind of almost like if you never put oil in your car and never changed the oil in your engine, like that would be a bad thing, right? Like we're all used to like, okay, I may not know anything about my car at all. Like nothing. I couldn't change a spark plug, know what it looked like, or why it's even important. But I think everybody in their just general maintenance that they do with their car knows that it's like, all right, I've gotta change the oil or this car's gonna fail. I think you as parents and you as athletes need to approach iron the same way that you do about changing oil in your car. It needs to be something systematic that you do on a regular basis, and you need to know where you're at. You wouldn't want to get to the point to where when you put your dipstick down into your car and go to pull it out, all of a sudden there's no oil in their car because your car would start not to function. It's the same way with iron. If you do not have iron in your blood, if those ferritin levels get really, really, really low, that's the same as your car engine being out of oil, and then things start going catastrophically bad in a really big hurry. So that's my spiel. I hope you paid attention to the end, and I hope you will take this as a serious opportunity to improve your running in terms of how you can perform, and then also improve your enjoyment of running. Because if your body has plenty of iron and plenty of oxygen in it, it's just going to make like it's never going to be easy. We say we do hard things, but they don't have to be extra hard. We don't have to make them so hard that they become impossible. Okay, thanks for the listen. Go get your ferritin tested. Bye.